Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Explore the Transformative Power of Evidential Mediumship. Learn how you can serve as a healing catalyst by delivering trustworthy messages of love between the two worlds. My name is Stephen Dyna. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really blessed to be here because I feel like we're on the cusp of a new era in which we can really collaborate with folks who are on the other side, our deceased relatives and loved ones, guides, allies. And we are really seeing that the skills to become a communicator across those worlds are something that virtually anybody can access if there's enough of a practice and protocol to develop it. And so what we're seeing is this great explosion of interest in mediumship, and it's really been catalyzed in many ways by the two beings that we're going to have today. One, its name is Jean Else. Has a master's degree. She's a chief executive and director of the Mavis Patilla Authorized Teacher Training Program. And Suzanne Giesemann, who's a mystic, medium, and author. She's been one of the most beloved Shift faculty members and has taught many programs, and originally trained with Mavis Patilla and Jean and at their academy. And so has really been this combination of the two of them that is helping to lead this field forward and helping to train far more mediums for a next generation of healing and service work. So Jean and Suzanne, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Always great to be here.
Great. Well, we're going to dive in, and we want to, really talk a little bit about the broader field and what's emergent in the teaching and training of people, and also spend a good portion of our hour on the Evidential Mediumship Academy. We are so blessed to have launched the first version of this last year to wide acclaim. Gives essential training and foundational skills for communicating with the other side with integrity, heart, and accuracy. And I think what you also hear, it's a profound personal journey of transformation to develop those skills as well. So we're going to be sharing more about that. And if you just want to know the URL right up front, it's at evidencebasedmediumship.com, evidencebasedmediumship.com, and we'll circle back with that as we get a little further into the call. So let's begin our time together. First of all, I think, Jean, it would be great for you to share some of the history with particularly Mavis Patilla, because in many ways, she's the senior faculty of this whole program that we've created and really helped to catalyze this next generation of development for mediums. So, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about her role and how you've continued to bring that forward.
Well, my pleasure. Bringing Mavis's legacy forward has been quite remarkable for me. And Mavis was the best medium, teacher, mentor, and philosopher in spiritualism and spiritual understanding, in my opinion. And I know Suzanne shares some of that with me. And she worked for over 55 years in this field and started out spontaneously, not understanding anything about it, and then was taught by remarkable teachers both here on the earth and in the spirit world. So her understanding of spiritual communication and linking between the two worlds is second to none. And very, very fortunately, I shared 25 of those years with her. So my knowledge has kind of come through osmosis and working alongside her and organising events, but also in making sure that Mavis's teachings got out to the widest field possible.
Well, thank you for carrying the torch forward. And Suzanne, I'd love for you to bring you in and share a little bit of your story, because I think it's such a compelling backstory, and then also why you really feel that bringing the Mavis's approach to training mediums forward has been so important.
Thank you, Stephen. I have to tell you that as Jean was sharing that, I can feel Mavis here, and she says, and don't forget, every time you play one of my videos, I'm right there listening with you. And she's absolutely inspiring all of the participants in this program, because when we think about a loved one across the veil, it draws them near. So all of these people focused on Mavis's teachings, she wants to make sure they hear it well, they use her teachings well. So she is a part of this course as much as any of the physical form teachers. Oh, I can feel her, and she continues to even teach me, Stephen. She and our dear friend Janet Nohavik, who crossed the veil right around the same time as Mavis, were my original and only mentors, really. They are just so steeped in evidence and integrity with their mediumship that I knew I couldn't do any better. And so I, having not been born with any awareness that I was a medium, having not seen spirits my whole life, went to the best of the best and learned their techniques and practiced them to this day. Now I've acquired my own style, which I believe every medium should not be rigid. We flow with how spirit presents itself. But the foundations of Mavis's teaching just started me on the path that I'm just so grateful to spirit and to her to be on, because the evidence makes all the difference in the world, and the high integrity. So to carry her teaching forward, even after she's passed, is a blessing to those who have access to that teaching.
So you both mentioned evidence several times in discussing this, and I think it'd be worthwhile for people to hear a little bit from both of you about why this evidential mediumship is such an important evolution of the field. So it really gives us sort of a grounding in reality that people can trust, so that what comes through is really transformational rather than just speculative. So maybe share a little bit about your experience with that in terms of, Jean, your experience of like why getting to an evidential basis is so important for mediumship.
Suzanne's just demonstrated that, because it's an acknowledgement that Mavis is in my life now, and obviously it's Suzanne's. And that's really been the body of evidence that I've had over these last 2 years since Mavis died. It's some of it's about memories, some of it's about circumstances, but the best evidence is knowing that she's watching what I'm doing, sometimes predicting ahead of time what might go on. And I think we mentioned this last year. I didn't know anything about this opportunity to work with the Shift Network. And obviously through Suzanne speaking to you, I was given this opportunity, but I was also told beforehand from Mavis that I would be working with Suzanne. And I've had so many examples of that. Too many teachers or too many mediums give snatched evidence where there's no real, if you like, confirmation that the person in the spirit world is really providing that evidence. Sometimes it can just be a psychic link where they're linking into the person themselves and picking up information. But real evidence, which is what Mavis and Janet believed in, as Suzanne said, and Suzanne herself believes in, it is really confirmation for those that are bereaved, like myself and lots of other people, that we know our people, our loved ones, are still around us, still communicating with us, still loving us. So evidence is absolutely key. And the Shift Network program provides the mediums with the ability to know the difference between psychic work, mediumistic work, and snatching pieces of information. So really, really important.
Suzanne, I'd love for you to build on that. And I can attest that we did a session with my wife's family, in particular, speaking to her deceased father, and the evidence that came through was so mind-blowing that it really compelled even completely skeptical members of the family. So maybe I've personally experienced the benefit. Maybe share just a little bit about why this focus on the evidential aspect of mediumship is so important in your experience.
Well, Stephen, even the reading I did for you was such a perfect example of this, that there were several things that came up that you were not able to validate on the spot. Yet when you went to a family member, they said, how do you know that? And it's because your loved one in spirit gave it to us and you were able to verify it later. That kind of evidence especially shows it's not a psychic link. I wasn't picking it up from your field. So now you have not only you, but your extended family members who have shifted their perspective of who we are and why we're here and what's important in life, and that life goes on. Evidence can be so healing. I talked to a woman a year ago on one of the cruises that I led, and there were a lot of bereaved parents on the cruise, and everybody was happy and joyful, but she, through her smile, came up and she kind of broke down, that was a little bit of a fake smile. And she said, does it ever get easier? And I ultimately gave her a reading and just talked to her last week. And I said, has it gotten easier? And she said, yes, as a result of that reading. And then she listed the evidence that her son brought through. People remember the evidence. It's what allows them to change their worldview, because they hear things from their loved ones that the medium couldn't possibly know. And that's what we strive to do, to leave no doubt in our sitters, the client, that their loved one is right here.
Yeah, there's something about that, just the full body chills of recognition. Like, even if our mind thinks we believe in spirits and life after life, it's like getting real evidence does have a huge impact on people.
The healing is profound, absolutely profound. And Mavis used to always say it heals both worlds, because the people in the spirit world are bereaved just the same as ourselves. And the fact that a medium can be, if you like, the conduit to acknowledge that of their existence actually heals the person in the spirit world too. So as soon as I receive something where I know that it's Mavis that is real, as I've just done with Suzanne then that heals Mavis too, because it makes Mavis very much aware that Suzanne is acknowledging her and trusting her with the information. So the healing between the two worlds is profound.
And Stephen, a very important point. I have met other mediums not trained in evidential mediumship, and their readings are at a very much lower level than the high standards that anybody trained in Mavis's methods, in my methods, in evidence-based mediumship strive to. You can actually learn methods and techniques to get the evidence. You have to insist on it. You have to be firm. You have to push yourself. And it requires practice. And that's what this program provides, because it doesn't just automatically happen. There are systems you can work with the spirit world to ensure that you always get really excellent. Well, okay, really, not always. We always try to, but we can't guarantee it. But the goal is to get that accurate evidence every time we connect with spirit.
I love even that you catch yourself to just make sure everything you're saying is precisely true. And so let's go back to Jean. So we've mentioned a little bit about like how there's a lot of variety in mediumship in the world. And so what I was drawn to with both of you was the rigor of training and the really the sense that this is not just a quick fix skill that you can develop. It's like something that's a lifetime unfolding to develop your capacities and get more and more grounded and open. So maybe I'd love for you to share a little bit about some of the pitfalls that can come up as people try to become mediums, and how to sort of practice and develop in a way that avoids those and really sort of experiences the full blessing and potential.
Well, the biggest pitfall is what you've just referred to there, and it's thinking it can happen overnight, and it won't. Spontaneous link with the spirit world can sometimes happen overnight, but to be able to develop the communication with people in the spirit world takes time. And it's like any other profession. And Suzanne talked about the different levels of mediumship there. In any profession, we could all become pianists to a certain degree, but we won't all become concert pianists. We could all become an athlete, but we won't run in the Olympics. So there's different levels. And one of the things that Mavis always stressed is mediumship works with the minds of people. And you can either destroy somebody's mind or enhance somebody's mind and thinking. And if you're working with the mind as a psychologist, a psychotherapist, any of those professions that work with the mind, you train for a long time. And yet some people think they can just jump into mediumship and give what they call messages that are not really verified and not confirmed by anybody, either in the spirit world or on the earth. And it's dangerous. So that level of knowledge, understanding, experience, and practice, as Suzanne says, is absolutely key. It really you can't shortcut this. You've really got to want to do it, and your soul will call you if you want to do it. And if you want to do it, then you've got to work hard at it, like any other verified profession.
Suzanne, what sort of pitfalls do you really think it's important for people to be aware of?
Well, Stephen, having taught people over the years, I see over and over the same things happen to all of us because our human bodies are programmed to work a certain way and to get in the way of connecting with spirit. So our ego jumps in, and we have fears and we have doubts and we don't trust. So the practice and the commitment to regularly connecting with spirit in an ethical way builds that. It allows us to notice these human traits. They may not ever go away. We may bring our own fears and doubts and lack of trust into a reading, but we build up this field in which we work. Mavis is the one that taught me there's a mediumship field, and we can call in the greats of mediumship to buoy us even when we do a reading. And this builds our trust and confidence that when we step out, the spirit world will never let us down. So the commitment and ongoing practice is paramount. It's all about building the trust. That when you hear something subtle, that when you get that you don't have the strongest connection, but you sense something, you know it's coming from spirit and you deliver it.
Yeah. I was just going to say Mavis would trust the people in the spirit world far more than she would trust her recipients on the earth. And I think that level of trust, it does take time, because your conscious mind comes in and tells you, oh, I can't do this, or people have said I can't do this, and it knocks that trust. So through this Shift Evidential program, with the teacher mentors, that trust will be developed and supported, because that's so important.
So sort of connected to what you've both just been sharing is this whole notion of ethics. I know that's a really very important foundation of everything that's taught in the Evidential Mediumship Academy. So I'm going to share, Jean, share a little bit about why that ethical foundation is so important in understanding, as you're saying, working with the human mind can be very complex terrain.
It's so key, this, and I know that Suzanne and I have talked about this before, because Suzanne and Mavis and probably other mediums have had to pick up the pieces when the ethics haven't been followed. And Mavis picked up people that have been told when they might die. They've been picked up pieces when people have been told that their relationship was failing, when things were going to go disastrously wrong. All the things that would never come from the spirit world. The spirit world are here to support and love and help. And sadly, once you put something in somebody's mind, it's very, very difficult to dissuade that person that it's not going to happen. So ethics and morals are key in this kind of work. And I'll let Suzanne give her favorite phrase about mediumship, which is
do no harm. Yeah, that's everybody that studies with me knows that's rule number one with me, because I do what I call damage control readings far too often. And I spent 20 years in the Navy, and if a ship gets flooding, the damage control party comes out and shores up the hole in the ship. Well, I hear these stories about readings that people have where mediums said things about a loved one across the veil that I know is not true, about them suffering or being in a horrible place. And I asked them, did that medium give you any evidence about your loved one? And they say, well, actually, no. I said, did you feel a sense of your loved one present during that reading? Well, no. All right, so let's go get your loved one. And then we use these techniques that we teach in this program, and they say, that's my loved one. I said, yes, and do you see what a good shape they're in? Do you see that they're here and they're fine and they love you? So we want to get to the point where we put mediums out there with ethics who get to the point where there is no more damage control necessary at all.
Amen to that. Well, Jean, let's go back to you. And I know we don't have time in this hour to really go in depth into all the different dimensions of the worldview, but I think it'd be helpful if people hear a little bit about Mavis's teaching around worlds within worlds and how that impacts the practice of mediumship.
Absolutely. And again, it's key to know who you're working with, because so many mediums that don't understand the spirit world think they're working with energy rather than working with people in the spirit world. And Mavis was given this wonderful teaching from her guide in the spirit world, a gentleman called Giesemann, who appeared to her, didn't appear to her spontaneously. She went into trance spontaneously, and Giesemann spoke with her husband quite out of the blue many years ago, and that was her first introduction. But he became her best teacher, and he presented her with the theory of worlds within worlds, that there were 7 worlds within worlds, but he did say they were just symbolic, that there are many more worlds within worlds. And he couldn't tell her all about it because it would blow our human mind. We couldn't even conceive of it. And when you think about it, here on the earth, there are so many different worlds within worlds. I've just been over to the States and come back this weekend, and even moving from Boston to Wisconsin, there's a different world within worlds there. And that happens in the spirit world. So first of all, when somebody dies on the earth, they go to what's called the mental level, and that's for the reunion with those that they love, that have gone before them. And you hear time and time again from nurses and from family members that when their loved one is transitioning, they will see people that have gone before and acknowledge that they're in the room with them. So there's the reunion, there's the rest, the recuperation, there's beginning to understand the use of the mind for mediumship. And that's when some people come back very quickly from the spirit world, and others take a little bit more time. I'm doing this very quickly, but you will have the full teachings of this in the program. Then you move on to what's called the etheric world, and that's where you do the self-review. So unlike conventional religions, you've not got God on a throne judging you. You're looking at your own life and doing the self-review, almost a bit like The Wonderful Life, the film The Wonderful Life. And again, they're beginning to understand how to work with mediums more competently. And again, that's where people like Janet and Mavis in the spirit world and other inspirers will be helping people in the spirit world to communicate with mediums. And the third world, and I'm only going to talk about the three because it goes very profound as we go on, but the third world is the astral world. And that's where you're becoming, if you like, a finer body, a more refined, knowledgeable person in the spirit world. And that's where you may decide to train to be a guide and develop your understanding of what's gone on in your past and how you want to help humanity. Mavis's guide, Mikasan, said at first when he was really a warrior in the old days in China, and when he got to the spirit world, his soul wept for the hurt that it caused, because he didn't realize he was causing it. His soul wept. And that's why he decided to develop more to help humanity in other ways through the reincarnations, both on the earth here and in the spirit world as well. So it's the journey, if you like, of the soul and the spirit as we move eventually towards the God souls through those worlds within worlds. Wonderful teachings.
Suzanne, I wonder if you could comment on this aspect of the spiritual journey and the sort of disclosure of worlds within worlds, like, and how that's sort of, I think sometimes we focus a little bit on what we can do for others with mediumship, but I think it's also really clear that how much the practice of mediumship evolves you as a soul yourself.
This is what has evolved my teaching into not just mediumship, but what I call the awakened way of living. When you understand that we are souls now, and that our human incarnation is part of the soul's journey, that we don't wait till we cross the veil and leave the body behind to advance, that we can advance now. Mediumship helps us to do that, because the more we expand our consciousness regularly, do what we call building the power, opening the flow of consciousness through us to access these worlds, the greater capacity we have to love while we're here. So mediumship is transformational in that way. This is not just about connecting other people with their loved ones across the veil. It's about opening ourselves to soul awareness and living in that awareness moment by moment. So the journey is so much more than I can talk to dead people. It's about how can I change my own life from the inside out, so that when I cross the veil, I'm already at the head of the class. I mean, my friend Brenda, who I talk about all the time, was here in physical form, and she's now my mediumship guide. She takes over during my readings from my main spirit guide, which is something I never expected. But it's because she was developing as a medium while she was here. She was one of my students. Stephen, she said to me jokingly, well, I thought it was a joke, we're going to be teaching mediumship together. And I thought, well, that's a little cheeky, right, Jean? I mean, you haven't even working as a medium and you say we're going to be teaching. And she has taught some of my Shift Network classes with me. And it's because she worked on herself so much that when she crossed the veil, she already knew what it's like to love herself as much as everybody else.
We might have slightly different terminology though. I actually met Brenda when I was over in Florida with Suzanne one year, and goodness gracious, she was a wonderful character. So I can imagine her working in the spirit world. Mavis would call her more an inspirer. So don't get confused. If Suzanne refers to Brenda as a guide, and Mavis would refer to her as inspirer, it's still the same person. It's still the same work that they're doing. It's just different terminology. But somebody like Brenda was so vibrant and alive, I can imagine her working very hard and loving it, because that's really, she was an entertainer as well, wasn't she? So wonderful.
So, Gina, I'd love for you to build on this notion of what you've seen in all the people that you've worked on training and teaching, both in partnership with Mavis and now like with her on the other side as well. I'm just seeing like the spiritual growth that is part of the development of mediumship.
Yeah, it's exactly what Suzanne said, this awakened way. And I love that terminology. And I love your daily posts as well, which I tune into. Mavis talked about developing the whole medium. So it wasn't just about the mechanics, learning how to communicate with the spirit world and then how to present it. But it was about understanding yourself. And as Suzanne said, it's so important. You can grow here and now, not have to wait till you go to the spirit world. So knowing that within this physical body, there's a soul, there's a spirit, and that's our link with the God source or the great spirit, whatever you want to, the divine intelligence, lots of different names. And I know there are lots of different names, but that spark is within us all. And it's the soul and the spirit that go back to the spirit world once we've shed this physical body. So Mavis believed that mediums should understand all that, as well as understanding the structure in the spirit world and the real people that they're communicating with. But she also felt that it was so important to be aware that, as Suzanne said, that we do no harm on the earth now, but we can develop our spirituality, our understanding of self, our understanding of what the soul is, what the God source is, here and now, as well as being able to communicate through mediumship. And there's not many people do that. And I think Suzanne would agree that Janet had that aspect of it as well. And so it gives a more profound overview of this evidential mediumship because you've committed to it. And the majority of people in this year's program have said they have changed totally in their outlook of themselves, their understanding of their link with all that is, and their link with the communication with people on the earth as well as those in the spirit world. It just transforms people. And if anything gave Mavis satisfaction, it was seeing that self-transformation as much as communication.
So central. Well, I want to go back to you, Suzanne, and ask a question about the profession of becoming a professional medium. And first of all, just a little bit about what you've seen in terms of the field growing and more people open to this. And I really see this as becoming normalized in the society, that eventually it'll be just normal to consult with people on the other side, ancestors, loved ones, guides, either directly ourselves or through somebody who's built that capacity. And I really see that as part of how we create a better future on the planet. And so maybe share a little bit about what you've been seeing as more and more people become professionals in this arena, and how it can be a really gratifying career as well.
Oh, absolutely is becoming more accepted, Stephen. And that's why this program is so important, because you have people that are truly committed to it. They're not just, I take a weekend class and hang a shingle out. The true test of whether you're ready to become a professional is the consistency of the quality of your readings. Are you consistently passing the test of a good reading that your client leaves and says, that was my loved one, and they've gotten accurate evidence and healing messages. So a program such as this one by the Shift Network is critical to making sure that as mediumship becomes more accepted by society, more appreciated, and people go to mediums, that we have reputable, ethical mediums to go to. And there are no standards right now. I don't know that there will be. We believe that we can't really certify mediums, but we give you a certificate of completion because the spirit world certifies us. The reading is what really judges whether or not we've done our job correctly. So, who are we to say that one reading or 8 readings is the test of a good medium? It's the consistency, and the consistency of training for a full year with qualified teachers, with outstanding teaching, will put you well on your way to being the best medium possible. And Stephen, I've done events throughout this year, my own personal events, and people come to attend those with me. And almost every time somebody comes up and they say, I'm in the year-long program. And I don't see them on the camera when I'm doing my monthly lessons for people, but I'm just so thrilled to feel their excitement, their energy, and to hear from them how much they're getting out of it.
Well, let's turn and really focus explicitly on the Evidential Mediumship Academy, because it is, I think it's very clear this is the best training that you can do at a distance, at least, available now today, and it's really getting rave reviews from people who are going through it and really experiencing the value. We had a really great group this first year, and we're expecting an incredible group for year 2. So again, it's called the Evidential Mediumship Academy, Essentials Training, Communicating with the Other Side with Integrity, Heart, and Accuracy. And it's at the URL evidencebasedmediumship.com. As we've talked a little bit here today, we've shared that it's a year-long program. It's a commitment of time, energy, and money. And as a result of that commitment, you harvest so much more for yourself, for your skill development, for your own evolution, ultimately your own freedom as well. And it's a very unique combination of live teaching, bringing in Mavis and her body of work with Suzanne's expertise monthly. Jean is stewarding and guiding and developing people the whole way through. And there's also a whole range of other qualified teachers who are supporting in small groups. So we'll share a little more about the details here, but Jean, I think it'd be useful to start with you and just talk about what your intention is for people to come out of this first year with in terms of growth and understanding and skills.
Well, I think the first thing to really emphasize is it's structured. It's structured and it's incremental. It's not looking at the development of mediumship and the understanding the theory in any ad hoc way. It's really structured. So that has been really a great benefit. And the students on this year's program are all saying that. And that probably comes from my background as a teacher, because you don't start teaching Shakespeare to an 11-year-old who's never had any experience of Shakespeare. And I was an English teacher at one stage. You incrementally build them up so that they understand. And Mavis was really keen on this. And though her mediumship happened spontaneously, though she could do it, she had not any understanding of how it happened and why it happened. So she had to go back to learn that the hard way. So it's better, especially if you're new to mediumship, to be taught in a way that progresses your knowledge and understanding. The one thing I can guarantee is there is no other course in the world that will give as much theory as this one. And that's because there's a depth and wealth of input from Mavis that I've got at my fingertips that I will share with the students on the program. The teachers that will be doing the individual teaching in the small groups of 15 and less, again, is so important to stress, because very few other teaching programs will ever give that small, informal and yet formal input to students. They'll watch and guide students working individually. Again, that doesn't happen. Often they're not really watched as they're working. They're not really supported. And all the teachers on this program have been trained personally by Mavis and have gone through an intensive teacher training program, utilising all Mavis's skills and knowledge over several years. And so they are really, really knowledgeable, committed, and consistent mediums, as Suzanne said. You know, they're not just mediums that would give one reading one day that would be hopeless and another one the next day that might be a bit better. They are consistently good, consistently knowledgeable. So at the end of 12 months, or at the end of this year-long program, the students will have got a body of knowledge unlike any other, because a lot of programs don't have the theory in the same way, and they'll have had a wonderful, wonderful experience of practicing and working with not only their own teacher, but with other students as well.
Well, Suzanne, I'd love maybe a little reflection from what you've seen in terms of people coming up to you and saying more about the benefits they've received of taking this.
Just echoes what Jean has been saying, Stephen, the thoroughness, the depth, the opportunity to practice, and the very close supervision. Really, they know that they're part of something very special, very unique, and getting the highest quality teaching.
Beautiful. Well, I'll read out a few of the things that we have on the page that also just give a little sense for all the benefits people get. So people will receive self-care and energetic hygiene practices, how to activate internal power sources and bridge the gap between self and spirit, develop and refine your soul's specific faculties, powers, and capacities to enhance the spirit communication, a strong and moral ethical foundation to serve both worlds, and how to use your life as a spiritual curriculum and shape your mediumship capabilities. So this is really an amazing program for anybody who is just, first of all, on a path of growth and development, want to maximize your own potential for good in your own life and others. People who are already intuitive and want to develop that capacity further, so be refined and realized. People who would like to communicate and reunite with other ones on the other side of the veil. That's a very personal motivation. And also to establish collaborative connections and communications with other wise guides as well. It's also really helpful if you are considering a profession in this direction, so that you want to see your skills develop in a way that you can serve others. So you'll get the roadmap, you'll get the tools, you'll get the growth, you'll get the support, you get a community. You understand the deeper metaphysical dimensions of it and the practical and ethical and operational sides as well. So it's very comprehensive. Super grateful to Jean for spearheading this, being the lead faculty, and to draw so many different threads together. And also for Suzanne to step in and bring your wisdom as a practitioner and a leader in this field to helping the next generation develop their skills. So it's quite a program. Maybe let's touch upon some of the curriculum details so people get a sense for what's ahead if they choose to move forward. Again, there's more detail on the page, but Jean, Unit 1 is called Understanding Yourself, the Spirit World, and Ethical Mediumship.
Yeah, and absolutely key, because if you don't understand yourself, how can you really understand how you're going to communicate either with the spirits on the earth, because as Suzanne said, we're all spirit now, or soul now, and those in the spirit world. So Mavis goes through several questions there, and I'll just give you a taster. Suzanne will probably put her hand up. She may not, actually, because she's unique, Suzanne. But, were you a loner as a child? Were you creative? Did you feel on the outside looking in that you had friends, but you were always a leader, that you knew when somebody needed help and support? You have that sensitivity. And the majority of people that will come on this course will say, yes, that applies to me. That applies to me, because you're already training from being a child on this journey of mediumship, though you don't know it at the time. She looks at all the other aspects that can impact on your mediumship. How do the moons affect you? How do the tides affect you? What are the negatives of your birth sign? How is that going to impact on your mediumship? How do we interlink with everything that's on this earth, be it animal, plant, or whatever? And I know Suzanne's got other expressions for that in terms of a matrix and so on. But Mavis believed in all that. And because we're linked to everything, it's going to have an impact on your mediumship. It's fascinating that. And actually it gives some profound learning about yourselves. And obviously then, just from moving on from that, it's understanding how we can link spirit to spirit here and now and look at the psychic link. And again, that psychic intuitive link is natural with people, but the majority of people never develop it. But we show you ways of developing it. So that's how we begin the journey. And then it's understanding, those real people in the spirit world. Mavis has not changed. Brenda's not changed in the spirit world. They're still the people that they were here. And yet some mediums kind of think, Mavis always used to say and sit and say, is there anybody there? Well, they're there. They're around us all the time. So it's on getting that understanding too.
Unit 2 is called Building the Bridge for Mind-to-Mind and Soul-to-Soul Communication.
Well, again, that's developing that psychic link and understanding really, and Suzanne referred to this earlier, how to not let the conscious mind cut in and tell you, that can't possibly be true. This isn't right. You're wrong here. So it's developing that confidence and trusting yourself and linking in with souls on the earth. So linking in with each other to be able to, again, be able to read the past, because Mavis always believed if you didn't read the past properly, how can you then have that glimpse into the future? And so many people, psychics out there, give a glimpse into the future, but have never been able to read the past of a person. So again, morally and ethically, we go through that, and that's whether it's just linking with someone sitting directly opposite you, or whether it's linking in through reading tarot cards or other faculties for that.
Unit 3, Foundations for Working with Other Souls.
Well, again, we move on to mediumship there. We're moving on rapidly in this course. Probably, on one level, some people might need a little bit more time. But obviously, the people that are signing up for this evidential mediumship have already got that yearning to link with the spirit world. So we demonstrate how that changes from linking with a person on the earth to linking with a person in the spirit world, because it's exactly the same. It's a soul-to-soul link.
Unit 4 is called Uncovering Death's Mysteries to Enhance Life's Journey.
Well, it's a wonderful title. Again, it's just understanding the worlds within worlds and what happens when we die. To take away that mystery. None of us want to die, and Mavis didn't want to die. She loved her life here. But we all know that we've got to go. And it's about understanding. She was very confident where she would go to. She was very confident what would happen to her. She was very confident with who she would meet. And all that's been verified as well to me via other mediums. So again, that gives the medium that confidence to know that not only for themselves and their family, that the understanding of the journey, but also the understanding of the people in the spirit world.
Unit 5, Different Forms of Communication for Ethical Mediums.
Well, again, that's looking at the different ways in which people receive their information. And I'm sure Suzanne might talk a little bit more about this from her experience. Some people just, have a very strong clairvoyance to begin with, or some people might have a clairsentience. So the clairvoyance is the vision, the clairsentience is the feeling, or the claircognizance, which is the clear knowing. So usually people have one particular strength, and our aim is to develop all of those so that they integrate. So the people in the spirit world then have the best chance of communicating with the medium, because all those faculties are own. And Mavis always used to say the clairsentience should be the anchor, because once the spirit world know you can feel them, they can feel you. So they have more trust in you. So again, it's helping people through that process.
Unit 6, Working Guides and Inspirers in Developing Private Sitting Skills.
Right, a bit of a mixture there, but as Suzanne has just talked about, Brenda being her guide, Mavis would say inspirer, but we've all got them. And we do have guides that were with us before we came to the earth and that will be with us when we go back to the spirit world. But we might have other guides that come in at different times for various purposes. And I know Suzanne works with a group of souls, don't you, that you call Sanaya, whereas Mavis tended to work with individual ones. One was called Mikasan, one was called Jane, who was a novice nun when on the earth, and several others like that. So Mavis didn't have that experience in the same way Suzanne has. But again, those are all unique experiences for every individual. But we all have guides, and whether you're a medium or not, and people call them guardian angels sometimes, but there's always somebody there supporting you pre-birth and then going back to the spirit world. It's utilising all the knowledge learned thus far and how you then utilise that in a private sitting, which, as Suzanne says, is the most transformative experience that somebody that's bereaved can have, because it's that private opportunity to speak directly to your loved one. And if you've got a wonderful medium like Suzanne, like Mavis, then, they bring the essence of your loved one alive. It's not just the information. They bring you, that the feeling. I even got it when Suzanne said Mavis was saying about watching over her shoulder, because I know I could feel that. And that's the trust in yourself and in the spirit world, and the importance of those private sittings, as you said, Stephen, to your family. And we can't underestimate how important those are.
That's really the heart of the work. Unit 7 is called Understanding the God Source, Inspiration and History of Mediumship.
Right, again, a little bit of a mixture, because, again, we're packing everything in. For me, obviously, understanding the God Source, the Great Spirit, the Divine Intelligence, whatever title you might have, and discerning the difference between that and the conventional view of a God is really important. And we will have covered some of that prior to this. But for Mavis, that reverence and that understanding that we're connected to all that is was so essential. She didn't believe that you could ever be a moral and ethical medium if you didn't acknowledge that we were part of that divine whole. And that's where eventually we will move towards on our journey back to the source. So very, very important with Mavis. Understanding the pioneers and the shoulders of the giants that we're standing on, absolutely key. Just as in every, whether you're talking about politics, whether you're talking about votes for women, whether you're talking about elections now, whether you're talking about good and wonderful ethical mediums of the past, it's so important that we understand how they've been, you said about, Stephen, about maybe this was being normalized now. It would never have gotten here being normalized had there not been people in the past, and people now like Suzanne, like Giesemann Prague, that have brought it to the masses, that have enabled it to be the norm. We're nearly there, we're not quite there. Maybe slipped through the times when they held Bibles up at her and told her she was a witch. So it was key for Mavis to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future.
Experience the craft in all aspects of mediumship.
Well, it's all right having the skills, it's all right having the knowledge, but if you can't present it, obviously in a private sitting it's different, but Suzanne for me is one of the best presenters, even though she's not demonstrating mediumship. She's got the charisma, she's got the skills, she's got the craft, she's got the technical ability. And you need all that. If you're really going to transmit, particularly in a demonstration, a large demonstration with hundreds of people, you need to have that ability. And I think Suzanne will agree, Mavis had it in bucket loads, didn't she? So again, we'll be helping people with that. And you talk to Suzanne about developing this as a career path, maybe, or as a business. Mavis would always say it should be a vocation, but you should give unto God what's God, and unto Caesar what's Caesar's. So if you make some money from it, fine, but you pay your taxes, you pay your dues. But actually, it should be a vocation that you're wanting to do it for the right reasons. But you'll never do it for the right reasons unless you've got the craft and understanding of delivery.
And finally, Unit 9, review your progress and design the path forward.
Well, I always believe, and Mavis believed it also, that the teacher can only be the light on your path. You have got to make that journey yourself. And so it's about self-analysis and review. Reviewing, you've been given the opportunity to have all this theory. You've been given the opportunity to have all this practice. Have you made the most of it? Because it's no good saying I haven't developed as far as I could if you haven't put the effort in. So self-analysis and review are key for us. Teachers are wonderful lights on paths. Teachers are wonderful inspirations. But at the end of the day, it's a personal journey. And Suzanne mentioned that very much earlier on, where she said it's about practice, practice, practice.
Well, it's an amazing curriculum, and the structure of this is so well designed for people to really cultivate the transformation personally and with the spirit world that really leads to great mediumship. And I should mention that each 3-month learning cycle will be followed by a month-long guided practicum, which will give you hands-on experience to apply what you've learned in a supportive environment and prepare you for the next stage of the program. So I also want to mention a few other things about the program at the high level, in addition to sort of the curriculum details. Like, we do have an application process for this. We limit the number of students for a number of reasons. First is we do have small groups that are guided by very seasoned guides. Our practice groups allow you to sort of advance. And so we have a limited number of those. And so that also ensures personal attention and also maximum impact in your life. So you'll need to do an application process to become part of this. I also want to mention, Suzanne, like bringing you back on, that we're really blessed that you've made the time to do 9 master practitioner sessions. So essentially following the 9 units, there's a chance to do a deeper dive with you. And since you've now done a cycle of these, I would love to hear a little bit about what you're doing in those and the value for folks who take this journey.
Thanks, Stephen. What I enjoy is looking at what the students and participants have covered during that month, what the topic is. And then I just open up to what personal experiences have I had over since 2009 doing professional readings. How can I apply what I've learned, the lessons learned the hard way and some the easy way, to what will embellish upon what the participants have learned that month. So I share my experiences, then I open it up to questions and give answers from myself and my team of helpers in spirit world during those sessions. And they've been very well received. And I love that Jean has attended all of them. And she'll say each time, you may have said it a little different than Mavis says, but this is exactly what we're teaching. So we're all on the same page, but I like that I bring in a little different flavor. Now, I'm trained by Mavis, but I have my own methods, yet it's all coming from spirit and all has the same goal, to help turn out the best evidence-based mediums possible.
And they love her. They absolutely love her. And Mavis would always say, in 50 years from now, if I go to the spirit world, one day you'll say, well, Mavis Patilla believed this, but I just do it slightly differently now. So that's exactly what she would have wanted with Suzanne. But we are on the same page and doing it for the right reasons. And there will not be many other programs that can say that. Doing it for the right reasons, in the right way, and helping, as you say, humanity expand their awareness of life beyond death.
Let's talk about the mentorship circles, which I alluded to before, and I think really one of the key values of this program. It's a bit different than, we're often just kind of broadcasting out insights from teachers, but this is a really intimate mentorship process with experiential exercises, all led by Mavis Patilla authorized teachers. So, Jean, I'd love you to share a little bit about what happens in those, how they're designed, and what people benefit from.
Mavis and I introduced mentorship programs about 10 years ago because she was getting rather frustrated by teaching with other teachers who were not of the same mindset or not of the same, if you like, ethical approach. And so we decided to introduce our own mentorship programs. And so all these teachers have been on our mentorship programs and have all been taught by Mavis and myself. The reason that we introduced them was also to control the numbers, because Mavis would be invited to teach all over the world, and sometimes there'd be that many in a group that you couldn't possibly, monitor them individually. So we always had small groups. So the teacher mentors will be with a small group. They'll get to know every individual personally, and in fact, we've got some lovely relationships and friendships going on already in this year's program. They'll also get to follow their progress in mediumship, and it will all be unique and individual. So nobody should compare themselves to any other, although we all do, we know that. But the teacher will have been exactly where the student's been at one stage, in their early stage of development. So they'll be able to talk about their experiences. They'll be able to guide the student through their development. They'll be able to watch the link with the person in the spirit world and be able to encourage the student to communicate in different ways, or to ask different questions, or to feel, to listen, to see in different ways, so that that communication can be enhanced. And again, I don't think there is any other program in the world that does that. And I'm fairly knowledgeable about what's going on in the world with mediumship. And I know a lot of the top mediums. So this is absolutely unique and a fantastic opportunity for those individuals that want to join us.
Well, thank you for creating the best training available, and we're really blessed to partner with you on it. So I'll share a few other details. So every month you get not only the 3 90-minute live theory class sessions with Jean, which include time to ask your questions. You're also going to get one of those master practitioner class sessions. You're going to get 4 mentorship circles, which really allows a level of intimacy, connection, and mutual support that is really remarkable. You also get recordings of every session, both video and audio. You'll get word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. There's an online community to support you and deepen your experience. And for all this, it's like we really have kept it very accessible for a full year of study and payment plans to do that. The investment is one payment of $5,000 for the year, or we have a payment plan that allows you to spread it out over a much longer period of time. The training is going to begin on January 7th and run through December 2nd of 2025. Primary class sessions and the master practitioner class sessions are going to be Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and that's 5 in the UK. You will really get a very comprehensive training and have many things that help empower you in your skills. And as we've said, most importantly, in order to be a great medium, you have to grow spiritually. And so what a blessing to grow spiritually, to be able to communicate directly with the other side, your own loved ones, wise guides and allies, and be able to start to do that with other people and in service to other people. If that's your choice as a vocation, what a blessing that is. So it is quite a journey that is ahead of you. And I think we've really assembled by far the best program out there to do so.
I was ready for a major boost in my spiritual understanding and connections. Made the decision intentionally, eyes wide open, and it has been everything and more of what I expected. Some of my classmates came in with the same idea of being ready for a big boost, and we've all gotten it.
It's been a beautiful process for me to grow. My clients have benefited from it. It's just so neat with the meditation practices, learning about chakras and learning about clairs and all of the fine details. You may think that you know it all, like, we don't know it all.
I found in the EMA program with the separate mentorship circles, I got that personal support. And I could ask questions saying, I'm really curious about that because in my other training, I've worked this way, but I know Mavis does it this way. So can you give me a little more feedback as to how I might work? And what I've always heard is really be in your own process, right? It's not about competition and comparison. It's really about allowing the process to unfold.
So deep bow of gratitude, Jean, Mavis as well. And I love that Mavis knew about this program before I did, before Jean did, before Suzanne did, since she was clearly planting some seeds in our consciousness to move in this direction before we were even aware that it was going to happen. So again, it's all at evidence-based-mediumship.com, evidence-based-mediumship.com. And it's good to get an application early since it did fill up last time. And we expect that this is going to be a tremendous group of journeyers and souls and future practitioners that are really coming together to really take this important vocation to the next level and to really be able to communicate with real evidence with the other side. So, Jean and Suzanne, we're nearing the end of our hour together, and I just want to give each of you a little time for a heartfelt invitation to people to join you in the Evidential Mediumship Academy, and if they're called. So, Jean, how about you?
Well, it's my privilege to be able to present Mavis's legacy to everyone, and I just know that there is no better program, there's no better teacher, no better mentor, no more enthusiastic person than Mavis. And it's my privilege to be working alongside Suzanne and alongside all the teacher mentors who are devoted to Mavis. And I've loved this year working with the students and getting to know all the shift students. And I just encourage you to join us.
Beautiful. Suzanne?
I'm honored that I get the opportunity 9 times during the year to put in my 2 cents and to give my support and whatever experience I've gained. But truly, for everybody to have the opportunity to learn, not just from Mavis, but we really want to build up here Jean's expertise. I have a friend who teaches law, but she's not a lawyer. Jean is spearheading this amazing program. She may not be a medium. That's not her calling. Her calling is to teach and organize, and oh, does she do it beautifully here. And like she said, nobody has greater access to Mavis's teachings, knows it better than she does. And she has spearheaded this group of teachers trained by Mavis. It truly is a unique program with people who have the highest possible intention. So you can't do any better. And I'm simply honored to be part of it and grateful that the Shift Network is hosting it.
Well, what a blessing to be partnered with both of you and to really be advancing this field. I feel like it's important medicine for all of humanity to move beyond seeing ourselves isolated human beings, but really souls on a journey of self-realization and service, and that we can do that but in partnership across the veil. It's such a blessing. So thank you both, and thank you all for joining us, and hope this has touched some chords in you of inspiration for moving forward and developing your skill set. And if you want to do so in the Evidential Mediumship Academy, strongly encourage you to get in an application now, since we do limit it. We want to get in early. So again, it's all at evidence-based-mediumship.com. Beautiful.
Thank you.